Enter song.
I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. Play the background. Somebody play in the background.
No, because then we'll get flagged.
Oh, shit. Alright, you want me to do the introduction?
We just did.
Oh,
That was the
whatever.
introduction. It's done.
Oh my god. You guys are horrible.
Yeah. We are.
Alright, welcome Internet to our game club, where each session we all pick a game and play through it, and each week we discuss a little bit about our thoughts and feelings of the game. This week we kind of had a snafu with the drawing last week, so we kind of chose my game over Yoda's game, but I chose...
For relevancy.
Yeah, for relevancy's sake. And for relevancy's sake, I chose the great 2009 Ghostbusters video game from Atari. The reason I did this is widely this is regarded as the third movie, simply because Harold Ramis and Dan Aykroyd both wrote the script for this game. Most major cast members came back to voice the game, as well as render their likeness to the game. The game itself takes place in 1991, 2 years after the events of the second Ghostbusters movie. To set up the game a little bit, the Ghostbusters are now on retainer for the city, no longer disgraced per se, but now widely regarded and called frequently without shame. So, yeah, that's kind of a little bit of background on the game itself, not so much the development. I'll go into the development a little bit later, but
Okay.
I tasked everyone with playing the first two chapters of the game. We'll took them through basically the firehouse, which is the basic structure for the game, teaching you the basics. And then the first level is travel back to the Sedgwick Hotel. For those that remember, in the very first Ghostbusters, the Sedgwick Hotel was the hotel Slimer overtook in the first movie. So,
Yep.
I'll turn it over to everyone else where they want to begin.
I was gonna bring up the developer of the game, Terminal Velocity. Not Terminal Velocity. That was their first game. Terminal Reality is the developers, most notably known for making the Blood Rain games. And that's sort of the only thing I think they're known for. All these other games that I'm seeing on their gameology, if you will, aren't really much of a standout. The only other standout I'm seeing here is Star Wars Connect that they would make 3 years after they made this game.
Wasn't that the dancing one?
Yep.
Oh god, we don't talk about that one. Well, the other game that they made was, although widely regarded as not being very good, was The Walking Dead Survival Instinct, and that was the one where you actually play as Daryl Dixon, and it's a first-person shooter.
It's supposed to be really, really bad. I have not played it myself,
I've heard that.
but I did watch somebody try to play through it, and it was very funny.
But with that being said, I think Terminal, Reality kind of put out a really great game here. I mean, is it perfect? No, but I think it's saved by the writing and it's saved by the cast.
Really,
and
I think it's saved by a lot of things. Really, the only thing that I kind of have an issue with is how the game's coded in various structures. If I use animation as an example, the keyframes for the animation are very good. The poses all look great, but the whatever animation engine they're using doesn't seem to let the animation flow as naturally as they do. Some of the motions don't really mesh very well, or they look a little unnatural. But once they're in those key poses, they look great. And so I just think maybe the lead developer needed to get a little bit tighter on the scripting for the game, because I think a lot of the game's problems just come down to how it was programmed.
With that being said, this game is around 7 to 8 years old now. So,
Yeah.
At the time, I remember when this game first came out, I was very excited about it.
I was too,
obviously,
and I don't know why I didn't pick it up.
I'm a very huge Ghostbusters fan. So when I heard that this was coming, I remember in an interview Dan Aykroyd talking about how they were working on the third movie, and it was going to be in a different kind of format. Originally, everyone thought it was going to be kind of an animated film, and then this came out. I mean, I guess you could still kind of call it an animated film, but I was very excited. I think last week somebody said that maybe it was Yoda who said, it's kind of taking place of this idea of Gears of War-esque cover-based shooter. And that was really popular during the time. So
yeah, I think the biggest thing they took from that, which a lot of shooters unfortunately took from Gears of War at the time, was they would map 50 different fucking actions to one button. That's obviously an exaggeration, but this game does map jumping, sprinting, and dodging all to one button. And even on PC, where you can rebind keys, you can't rebind those 3 separate keys. It's all going to be on one key for some reason.
Yeah.
And that's just programming. That was just a bad design decision. But that's the design decision that was made of games at that time period.
It really was. So, I kind of want to turn it over to Lost Wolf first, because he's a more seasoned veteran in the podcast. I know this game was not up his alley, but he was still excited to experience it. So, Lost Wolf, what's your first reactions to the game?
Okay, so I didn't know that it was a shooter. Had no idea, because we went into the game club and we were doing it over the Steam sale. So I was like, okay, I need to buy it. And I didn't even look at anything. I just looked at the name. Didn't look at the pictures. Didn't look at the movies. Didn't look at anything. Just it's a Ghostbusters game. I'm really excited, and I got it and I started playing it. And the first couple of minutes of the game are, this is you and you're running around, and I lost Egon. Okay, that was the first thing I did. He ran downstairs to the basement, and I lost him completely. I was like, this is a shooter. I'm going to be terrible at it. And then I was, because we played all the way up to the hotel, and at the hotel, I don't want to spoil anything for anyone who's planning to play it, but it does a set piece, which is actually a really awesome set piece, and I'll talk about that in a minute, but there are these little dudes who come up from out of nowhere, and I got swarmed by them and I died. I was playing on casual.
Okay.
So
sorry, I didn't mean to laugh at you.
No, it's fine.
I mean to laugh at you, Gray. I promise.
I don't have a problem with people laughing at me. I am legitimately terrible at shooters. Having said that, I like of all the ways that they could have done this game, I feel like this is probably one of the more true to the Ghostbusters lineage than anything else they could have done, because I played the 80s Ghostbusters game, and let me tell you that was not good.
I remember that game.
Right. It was you driving around in a Ghostbusters mobile, and then every now and then you'd spot the Ghostbuster signal. Yeah. You'd spot the Ghostbuster signal, and then you'd have to stop and pause, and then you'd have to catch the ghost. But it was very janky. It was not very well put together.
Yeah.
It was published by Activision, even, I think. And so the fact that, 30 years later, they tried again and they made a different game and they made it predominantly a shooter works in its favor. The other thing that works really well, I said I'd talk about that set piece, is that they brought the voice actors back. They brought back the feeling of those dudes together. Now, the one person they didn't bring back is Rick Moranis, but we'll probably talk about that later.
Yeah, there's a reason that he wasn't.
There is a reason he's not.
Yeah,
there is a reason he's not in this. But just having them back and having them reprise their roles made it so much more authentic. It's
I totally agree. And the chemistry they still have all between each other, even in a voice acting studio, is great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
it really feels like the Ghostbusters.
It does.
Yeah. So I just to not get too far off track. So, we have a lot, as Lost Wolf said, we have a lot of cast coming back. So we have Dan Aykroyd, we have Bill Murray, we have Harold Ramis, we have, everyone basically comes back, including the guy who played Walter Peck in the original movie. But as Rick Moranis does not come back, and just to address that really quick, Rick Moranis kind of left Hollywood after a certain point. His wife passed away, actually, and he made the decision to be at home with his children. He kind of came out of retirement a bit to do a little bit of voiceover in Brother Bear from Disney. I think he was in 2 of those movies. But besides that, he hasn't done much. There's been interviews through the years, but it all comes down to he basically says that he's happy being a dad and being at home.
Yeah.
And with that being said, in the game they still acknowledge the character, and they have his desk downstairs by Ecto-1, and there's like a note from him downstairs that says, I'm out sick, if there's an emergency call, but I mean, even Annie Potts comes back as
the secretary.
Secretary,
yeah, Janine.
Yes.
Yeah,
Janine,
and she's just as awesome.
Yeah, if you hang out in the basement down there or in the firehouse first floor for a little bit, she gets like a phone call, and it's pretty fun to listen to. It should have been in my video, I think.
Yeah, it was good.
So, go ahead, Lawsable.
Okay, so the thing about Rick Moranis and the reason why he left Hollywood is because, and this is the last thing I read about him, what happened with him, and it's unfortunate, and I can understand how this happened to him specifically. He got very, very typecast as a nerdy professor, and he just didn't like that. It wasn't doing anything for him. He wanted to do other roles, and no one was giving him any of that sort of thing. His agent would constantly get things like How I Shrunk the Kids 2 and that sort of thing. And he was just like, he'd like to continue acting, but not if he's going to keep getting these parts.
Yeah.
Well, it was also his wife passed away, if you look into it.
Yeah, that's what I always had heard, was his wife had passed away, and he just wanted to actually raise his children.
Right.
So,
but with that being said, we kind of addressed the firehouse, and I kind of want to move to that really quick before we turn over to Screw. To me, the greatest part of the game is all the little Easter eggs. And this comes in the shape mostly in the firehouse itself. As you progress through the game, you will find collectibles, and these collectibles will actually appear in the firehouse. A lot of these collectibles are from the movies, and even from the animated series from the late 80s, early 90s, the real Ghostbusters. One of these Easter eggs come in the form of the fact that Slimer is actually housed in the firehouse, kind of as a mascot / pet. We saw this a lot in the cartoon from that era. One of my favorite things is you find the toaster from the second Ghostbusters movie, and it actually will appear on the pool table in the firehouse, and you can go up to it and press it, and it will dance just like in the movie. It's just those little nuances that they included that make the game just that much more perfect. So, Screw, what's your initial thoughts?
Well, I liked it. So far, I'm having a good time with it. I've been fighting myself. I mentioned earlier in Slack before we started that I've been kind of fighting myself to just start playing it anyways and say, screw you guys, I'm just going to play this game. Because for me, it's like I got on a roll, and now I'm a little bit afraid I'm just going to go back and forget how the controls work after not playing for a week. But I'll be fine. The graphics, I think graphics look pretty great for 2009. I think it looks like a really good game.
I think the modeling team did a really great job, and especially the texture work on
textures are very nice.
Look really really good, especially for a 2009 game where they're mostly working with 2K textures. And they got a lot out of them, man. They really cranked out what they could in such a small space.
I mean, it runs like a dream on my PC anyway. It's 130 plus frames a second. Really not.
Strange, because it has a 60 FPS lock on mine.
You can turn both of those off. You can turn off the 30 and the 60.
My monitor is only a 60 refresh rate anyway, so I just put on the 60.
Mine is too, but here's the thing, and I wanted to mention this. Okay, so if you turn on the 30 FPS lock, there's screen tearing, or for me, turn on the 30 FPS lock, there's screen tearing. Turn on the 60 FPS lock, there's screen tearing. If I turn them both off, there's no screen tearing. It's like my video card takes over.
Yeah, I didn't have screen tearing either way.
I didn't.
Weird.
So yeah, it was a little bit silly. I have to force VSync on my card to make it
right.
But um, at any rate, it's still not a big deal. It plays really well. I do like the fact that it's written and voiced by the original cast, although Bill Murray just doesn't seem to have given a fuzzy rat's ass about his voiceovers.
No,
I think he did a good job though, or maybe it's just it comes down to the animation getting.
It's also the character, because Venkman is very much like that in the movies.
Yeah,
yeah, but I didn't see him that way at all in the first movie. I thought he was lively and and sarcastic. In this, I sort of picture Bill Murray sitting with his face in his palm and an open shirt with a bourbon and a cigarette in his other hand, just like going through the motions. That's kind of how I see him in this. And although that's
this is 2009 Bill Murray, so I mean that is probably the attitude he had about most things at the time period. But it was probably cool for him to hang out with his friends from the 80s, and I'm sure because they were all clearly in the same voice room. They weren't in different rooms doing these.
So here's the thing about Bill Murray during the time, and this was kind of an interesting tidbit about the development of the game. So Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis were both working on the game, making it relatively easy to get most of the cast back. Bill Murray was still the hardest to get back, simply because there was some kind of bad blood between him and Dan Aykroyd. Every time Dan Aykroyd tried to put out a script for a third movie, Bill Murray would basically poo-poo it and have harsh words towards him, making it kind of bitter between the two. Yeah. It wasn't until that Bill Murray was presented with a script from the game that he finally came around to the idea. Although he had a lot of demands for his character, and just Murray is kind of one of those actors that is incredibly difficult to work with, but once you get him on board...
it seems like 2009 was just a year he decided to do some work again, because he did Fantastic Mr. Fox, and he did the Zombieland, and he did Get Low. So it seems like people were able to get him out of the dark to come do things.
And along the same lines of that, I want to recommend. I know this is way off track. This is a movie. Anybody who likes Bill Murray, watch Rock the Casbah. That movie is amazing. It's so good.
Yeah, I still have to watch that.
It's very cool. He's in that. Anyway, back to the game.
So
this is not a complaint. This whole thing about Bill Murray is not a complaint. I think it fits in. He's still funny. He's still like sarcastically funny. He just I mean, like I said, I picture him just sort of with the bourbon and a cigarette in one hand, just going through motions on a microphone, like he just doesn't care. And I love that. I love that visual from him.
So there's another noticeable cast missing from the game, and that's in the form of Sigourney Weaver, who many years always turned down the idea of video games. It wasn't until Alien Isolation that she finally came out of her shell.
That was a shame. Right. That was the wrong game for it to be in. That's such a shame.
Alien Isolation, I heard, was great.
Yeah, I
love Alien Isolation.
You're thinking Colonial Marines. You're thinking of our lovely friends at Gearbox.
No. So anyways, back to the Ghostbuster aspect. It wasn't until Bill Murray really got on board that she started to show interest. However, it was way too far along in production to pull her in, and that's why we get Alyssa Milano's character.
That is really sad.
It is sad, but I mean that's why we get, and that's the game kind of feels kind of weird because we have that introduction at the very beginning of Alyssa Milano's character. And anyone that doesn't know Alyssa Milano, known for Charmed and Who's the Boss.
Yes.
But she came in and played kind of the love interest of Bill Murray this time around, sort of.
Okay. Right, and it feels probably very weird as a result.
It does feel weird because, Sigourney Weaver was in both movies and the love interest to Bill Murray's Peter Venkman. So, but that was the reason
and like the one character who could see through everyone's bullshit.
Yeah. So, now that we've everyone's kind of give their initial reaction.
I wasn't done, George. But
you weren't done. Sorry. Sorry, Screw. Why don't you go back and finish what you were saying?
Yeah, and I haven't gotten to give a take either. All I said was that the coding wasn't that great.
Yeah. Cody had a complaint, and George is like, "Boss Wolf."
Okay, Screw. Why don't you finish, and we'll move on to Yoda.
All right, so I really, really enjoyed the level design in the hotel. That was really
It was
awesome.
very well done.
You know, the way it just that you felt yourself getting deeper and deeper in the rabbit hole, you know, as you went into this, and you know, the water and particularly the tube worms when you're after the angry fisherman. As they call them. That was really cool. I really enjoyed that. You know, the one complaint I have so far is that collision is everywhere. You get hung up on everything.
Yeah. I was trying to figure out if they were using a capsule collider or if they just went with a box collider, and I feel like it's the latter.
Yeah.
I think it's a box collider. That's what it seems like to me.
Yeah.
I think that was a problem in a lot of games back then, though.
No, I think it was.
Oh, yeah, no. That's why it feels so much like a Gears clone, because Gears you get stuck on every piece of ass too. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, it took me a little while to remember that, you know, you can actually pick stuff up with your proton pack and move it out of the way. It's like, because I was like getting stuck in spots, going like, what the hell do I do here? And then I was like, oh yeah.
Speaking of that, the proton pack thing, they explained it so terribly that the minute I got there, I could see kind of what I had to do, but I had to fiddle with all the buttons to get it to work.
Yeah. I had forgotten it.
Yeah, it does. It's not really a great finesse when it comes to controlling things around with your proton packs when you have to grab something. Shooting things with it is fine if you can deal with if you can deal with mouse acceleration. But
I feel like that is realistic though, because
I feel the same way. You're grabbing something with a beam of energy. How accurate are you really going to be? How much control are you really going to have over that?
Exactly.
But I mean, that probably is just an excuse for bad.
Yes, because you can still give somebody the notion of, okay, I don't have as much control, or I'm not that accurate here, while still providing Deus Ex. Let's go to the newest one, Human Revolution. That game, you know that you are terrible at shooting because the reticle is bad, and you have to actually level up your shooting. But it doesn't feel like the shooting mechanics themselves don't work right, and then say, oh well, we'll give you some better code once you upgrade that. It actually takes more code to make it feel like you're not doing well.
I will tell you this though, it feels much better to me, at least. I felt it felt much better as far as capturing a ghost than it did as far as just moving an object.
Me too.
Yes.
Getting a ghost and fighting it. Getting a ghost and fighting that ghost, that felt pretty good to me, and I really love that mechanic of grab a ghost, slam it around, and lead it to a trap, and hold that button until it gets in the trap. You know, I think that's really cool.
I like the idea of that mechanic, and it works, but it just works. I don't think it goes a little bit beyond to that. It's just super tight and really well defined. I think if they had spent a little more time refining all the little values and circumstances and getting through a bunch of loops in their code there, it could have really polished it up to make it feel just a little more clean. Yeah.
I think with that, I will tell you guys that with that mechanic, at least for myself, the whole process of capturing ghosts, especially towards in-game, gets a little bit tedious.
Oh yeah, I would imagine. Yeah.
So just a fair warning on that. I know early game, especially the first time I ever picked up the game, it just felt so realistic, and I really felt like I was stepping in the shoes of a Ghostbuster.
Yeah,
with,
it's very
the
tactical.
constant
I do like
struggle and trying to lure it into the trap. And they do such a great job of putting you in the shoes by putting you in the shoes of the nameless rookie. And as Peter Venkman says in that, in the game, no, we don't want to know your name. It's not important. Like,
and
like
if you're going to go the route of, okay, we're not going to have you play as any of the original Ghostbusters. We're going to make it feel like you are your own Ghostbuster. I'm cool with that. I just wish that this Ghostbuster didn't look so much like Ray, because every time they're on screen together, I would have to go, what's wrong with Ray's character model? Oh, he's over there.
Yeah. He does look very similar to Mr. Stantz. That's true. Except that your name tag says rookie.
Yeah,
that's true.
I like that too.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go back one step here real quick and mention that the this ghost capture mechanic is also in the new Ghostbusters game, the 2016 Ghostbusters.
Oh, we don't talk about that.
It is the exact same mechanic, and it's the only good thing about that game from what I'm seeing of it.
Yeah, we don't discuss
which is a bummer, because I thought like a 4-player twin-stick shooter for
I
Ghostbusters, that sounds like an ace in the hole, right? Like, that sounds great.
The people from Twinstiq like Twinstiq games.
It's weird.
I'm actually not the biggest fan of twin-stick shooters. I like them occasionally, but yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, right. We don't really want to talk about that game.
No, we're going to talk about a good game. We're going to talk about
I like
this game.
the art direction in that game, though. I did think that was cool.
Oh, I like the art direction in this game too. It's just
yeah.
cartoony enough to still feel like it's set in the Ghostbusters world, but it's also a little whimsical enough that it feels like its own thing. I like it.
Yeah.
With that being said, there is two completely, for this 2009 game, there is two completely different art styles. There's the ones for the PC, Xbox 360, PlayStation 3 version that we're playing that are the more realistic. Now, on the other side of stuff, the Wii version, the
PSP
DS version,
and PlayStation
PSP, those were all very cartoony, but in a callback form of the original cartoon.
It was also done by a different studio. Terminal Reality didn't make those versions. Redfly Studios did.
Redfly.
Is Redfly still around? Because Terminal Reality isn't, but I don't know if Redfly is still around.
Redfly is not around. Their downfall was that Turtles game, I think.
Oh. Yeah, Walking Dead Survival Instinct. Walking Dead Survival Instinct is what put Terminal Reality under the belly.
What was I going to say? Yeah, but there's two different art styles. And I never played the Wii version. I thought this was just such a superior game. So I would have been interested to see if the game still unfolds the same way, if the script is still all there.
I'm interested because of the motion controller, and I think catching ghosts with a motion controller would be a hell of a lot of fun.
Or terrible. Or probably terrible.
I'll tell you what, Screw. If you ever get your hands on it, let us know what you think about it.
That's true. You have a Wii. You could get
but
that.
It's an original Wii. It's not a Wii U. I don't know if it's a Wii U title.
No, it's a Wii title.
It's just a regular
Wii U came out in 2011. This game came out in 2009.
Okay. Yeah, I might look for it. I might check it out.
So, okay, so Yoda, your thoughts deeper.
Sure.
I mean, you kind of throw your voice in with everybody else, but.
No, well, that's how having a discussion works, I feel. But no, I loaded the game and was almost immediately in love. Just hearing the original score from the film while you're walking around and stuff like that, I thought was really, really great. Apparently, Chris Rickwood was the composer for the video game music here. Obviously, he didn't write the scores, but he did compose it all for the game and would go on to make scores for Red Orchestra and Orcs Must Die and Killing Floor, all of which have fantastic video game music compositions. So this was a pretty good way to get him into the industry, and I'm glad it worked out that way, because he's gone on to make some pretty good game music, and this is where he got his start at. I think the game's great so far. I do have some problems with how the game's coded, but as we've said, I think the lighting is great, the modeling is great, the textures look incredible. The animations are good. I think it just comes down to them not working too well with the engine they were working in, which I actually don't know what engine they were making this game in. Is this Unreal? It's
I think it was.
It's the Infernal engine.
Yeah,
okay.
It's the splash screen. That was my. Also, how many splash screens are in this game, dude?
That was one of the things.
It was like 9 splash screens.
Yeah, well, they have like the classic like Columbia splash screens when you load the game. I was like, oh, that's cool, and then when you start the game, they do it all again. I was like,
you
okay,
can skip it after the first run through, but
yeah.
And I was like sitting there going, are these gonna ever end?
I was like, man, I should have. Need to go to the lobby and get a snack. This is like previews.
So another thing I wanted to point out too, it's one of those little nuances that I adore is the name of the achievements for the game come from lines from both movies basically.
Oh, cool.
So there's a achievement. The name of the achievement. Hold on, let me pull pull these up really quick. Some of them is, hold on, I'm pulling up apologize about it. Like one of them is, so if you complete the game on professional difficulty, the name of the achievement is "Are You God?" So that's a line from the first game.
Yeah.
If you do all the PKE scans in the game, there's the achievement's name is "Back Off, Man, I'm a Scientist." There's other great ones.
That's awesome.
I'm trying to think. Here, hold on. One Down on the Ground is another name of a great achievement. Spores, molds, and funguses. You get that for collecting all artifacts, and that's kind of an allusion to Egon in the first movie when Janine asked him what your hobbies are, and he says, spores, molds, and funguses. So it's those little things that are great.
I think that comes down to the writing, and obviously it speaks volumes of Harold Ramis and Dan Aykroyd's love for their franchise.
Exactly. Everything about this game, I mean, going back, sure, I see a little bit of problems when I play it now, but not enough that makes me frustrated. And
it's not unplayable by any means.
They're hardly enough to be called problems. They're more just like things have been sort of, refined over time.
Yeah.
So in comparison, they feel a little bit dated, a few things maybe, but it's still very cool. I really enjoy it.
Well, I mean, we still get games that don't let you turn off mouse acceleration.
Yeah, if there's one problem I had with this, and it made it legitimately hard for me to play, I'm not into shooters. So one of the things that it does is it inverts all of the mouse directions. So left is right and right is left and up is down and down is up.
It does?
And that from
mine wasn't like that.
Mine's not either. Maybe your computer's just bad, Gray.
And I play it on the PlayStation 3, so I'm playing with the controller, so you can easily invert.
Well, you had told me to play with a controller, so I started the game in big picture mode and loaded it up with a controller, and the game just kept crashing over and over with a controller. So I went, all right, well, whatever. And then in my video, I even try hooking up a controller after the game is launched to think maybe it'll help, and as soon as you hook it up, it just crashes. So I was like, all right, whatever.
That's weird.
And so this made it exceptionally difficult to play because everything was back to front. And I was just like, after a while, I found that you could invert the y-axis, I think it was. So up was up and down was down. But I never found a solution for right and left. And that made it...
That's really weird.
Yeah, and so that made it, whenever I was trying to catch a ghost, that made it extra hard because I'm already at a disadvantage because I don't play shooters. Now I have to think.
You got a lot further than I would have. I would have just stopped. I would have just looked up a Let's Play if all the controls were inverted. Jesus.
So my game did not crash with a controller, but I hate using a controller for shooters.
Same.
I tried it for a little while and I just despised it, so I had to go back. And really, the keyboard and mouse, works super well for me. It's very smooth. I do agree with Cody. The mouse acceleration is pretty annoying.
It's pretty bad too.
But yeah, I did not experience any axis inversion.
No,
at all.
Me neither. So, wooden PC you got there, Gray?
It's a PC that I bought from 2012.
Oh no, it's wooden. It's made of trees, is what I'm saying.
It's a super fancy abacus.
That's exactly right.
That's a better term for all computers. Super fancy abacus.
Automated
abacus. Automated abacus. AA. I like it.
There you go.
All right. So, do you guys have any more thoughts before I kind of tell you your tasks for the next round?
I just want to very quickly. There's one thing I do want to address.
I wish the multiplayer was still active. I'd like to try that out.
It wasn't
when I played it, and might just be me, but it's also a function of the era this game was built in. I thought the sets were really well done, but I thought that the character models were they could have used more polygons on those, which is weird because the this game is so very character driven
Mm-hmm.
that I thought they would have put a lot more effort into the actual character design.
You have to remember that this is 360 era, and so since this is 360 era, this game is being natively made on a 360 because it's the least powerful platform at the time.
Machine.
Right. So that's what you have to model all your characters for.
I think on that end too is it's the reason that there's more in the environment and not in the characters as they run or alongside you is they expect you to focus on the action and not on the other Ghostbusters.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah, that as well.
I know it would have probably stretched Sony's patience or Atari's patience here. Not that they're not really the same thing at the time, but I think the game really would have benefited from like a co-op mode. Especially since there are 4 Ghostbusters, and there's really only one part so far where they send you alone. They really didn't have to.
Yeah. There's a few other parts in the game later on where you're kind of on your own, but I always agreed with that. And I think it was a writing style choice personally, because it's not one of those games like you get with, I'll use the example of a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, they obviously put you into the shell of one of the other turtles.
Yeah.
Here, they didn't want, the Ghostbusters aren't necessarily centered ground as individuals. It's more the fact that they're a well-established team now.
Yeah.
And you find out at the end that they're trying to branch out.
It would be strange that they would have to train Egon or Winston how to do something. Yeah.
Exactly. And if they put you in the shoes of one of the originals, you would almost feel underpowered because you didn't already know how to use the pack. Later on, you get different devices, and later on, you'll get to use the slime pack from the second movie.
Cool.
And that's really cool. That's coming up in the game for you guys. But
I think the thing I'm hoping for most is some more enemy variety, because I mean, as fun as it is to do the shoot a ghost, lasso a ghost, collapse a ghost into the trap, I feel like if that's the only enemy type we're going to run into over the course of 12 hours, it might get a little tedious. So are there more enemy types that we're going to run into?
We've seen a couple more. Well, at least two more enemy types we've seen. We saw the little candelabra guys that run around and you just destroy them.
You just shoot them.
And then there was the larger kind of mini boss version of that guy.
Yeah, the golem thing. That was
So with the candelabra guys, if you're like me, you just get swarmed by them and die.
So I will say that there's some variety there, not a huge amount. I again, like you, I would have liked a little bit of more of a huge amount that you would have to change up your tactics kind of on the fly.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I still think that there's enough that it makes the game playable and enjoyable that you can keep pushing.
And it's not just a monotonous grind the whole time.
Cool. Once you get a different tech, there are some enemies that you have to defeat with a different piece of technology than so.
I just think it would be cool, like there's some enemies that you can only shoot, some enemies maybe you can only grab and like throw them against the wall and they explode or something, and they are immune to getting shot at, but if you grab them, you can...
There is variety like that, and it comes in more later, because you guys have to remember, at this point...
Yeah, we're an hour into the game, so
The Firehouse was a complete tutorial, very basic tutorial.
And the hotel's kind of an extension of that tutorial.
Exactly,
well, so.
And you will eventually go back to the hotel later in the game to fight. Once you
but
get
as Screw was saying, the level design of it was great, and I'm sure it'll stay that way. And I'm kind of glad they went with a level-to-level type game. As much as I think a GTA-style Ghostbusters game could work, where you have like your firehouse as your hub, and then you can go to Vankman, you can go to Egon, and they take you on specific missions, and you can ride around the city in the Ecto-1 and go catch ghosts, would be fun as well. I'm glad they went with a level-to-level type game.
I was actually super worried about that, in fact, because I played the 80s video game, and They're like, you need to hop into the Ecto 1, and I was like, are you gonna make me drive?
I mean,
Please don't make
I
me
hope
drive.
they make me drive. I'd love to drive the Ecto 1, don't get me wrong. And I wouldn't be opposed to a GTA-style Ghostbusters game, but it's nice to see a game that's not afraid of just doing, we're just going to make a game where you play through levels, and that's
Right.
the video game. Because everything wants to be open world these days.
The upside to that, too, is that they can spend a lot more attention to detail on these
On
specific
the levels.
Exactly.
Yep.
rather than building an open world.
Yep.
I will
sort
tell
of
you the
media.
Ecto 1 comes into play, but you don't drive it.
Okay.
Because, that's not your role. I mean, the Ecto 1
That's
was...
true. Yeah, why would they let the rookie drive the Ecto 1?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, but it does come into play. So for next time, I just want to point out, for those listening that are playing along, we left off after the Sedgwick Hotel. So the next 2 levels are Times Square
right.
and the public library. Now, the
cool.
library is back from the original movie.
Oh,
and
that's awesome.
It delves more into the librarian ghost. So we get more backstory about the librarian ghost.
I just can't wait to see all that architecture modeled, because the new public library is beautiful, and I want to see what the modelers do
With that being said, there is a great Easter egg, and it's an achievement. And the name of the achievement is, The Kids Love Us. So I want you guys to try to get this achievement. Now, you'll have to look it up. Basically, to get this achievement, the kids' reading room has a story to tell, but it will take more than your eyes to see it. You may have to look it up how to do this. The reason I want you guys to focus on this achievement, it's a side quest sort of thing. To me, it is one of the most creepy parts of this game.
Okay.
It's very well done, but by the time you solve it, I just kind of, like, my first time ever playing this game, I stumbled upon it, I followed the clues, and I solved it. It was very kind of creepy, and I want to see if you guys agree with me. Because up at this point, the game hasn't been
No, it actually hasn't. I was surprised at that. It's a little bit
I don't know. It was a
weird.
little creepy chasing the fucking pirate dude around in the fucking
Yeah,
water-soaked hallways and shit.
Dark
Yeah.
I think there's a few times in the video where I'm like in my little goggle. I can't remember what the device is called.
PKE
Yeah,
goggles?
the PKE goggles.
PKE goggles.
And I'm just like slowly creeping on shit, and then something will pop out, and then you just see it go.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So that achievement is in the public library. So if you find it, I do want to discuss that one next week, because I do feel that was one of the most creepy aspects, simply because it has to, I guess, trigger warnings for anybody that is playing along. It does have to do kind of towards violence towards children.
Yeah, I kind of figured that, given the name of the achievement and the fact.
Yeah. So but we'll discuss it next week. If you guys if each of you solve it, great. If not, try to look up a YouTube video of it. Because I do want to discuss that aspect of that level. So stop after the library, because that's another two chapters down.
So here's I'll bring this up afterwards.
Okay.
No, I'm going to bring it up now.
Okay.
Because we're in the middle of discussing this. Are we still going to do just two? Because
Yeah,
I mean,
I could do a
like
lot
an
more than
hour.
2. Yeah, it took me.
If you guys want, we can do 3 this time, and then it leaves 3 for the episode after that.
Yeah.
So if you want a playthrough Times Square, the public library, and the history museum.
History museum.
Cool.
Okay.
Because
sure.
after the history museum, you will return to the Hotel Sedgwick, and I kind of want that to be its own.
Okay.
Oh,
Sure.
okay.
That
Right.
sounds good.
Because the last 3 chapters happen really fast, and you're wrapping up the game. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, these 3 that we're going to play this next time, Times Square, the public library, and the history museum, are kind of that middle point in the game where everything seems a bit longer. So if you want to get through that, great. We'll call this 3. So that way we only have 2 more episodes of this left.
Okay.
That's cool.
All right. There's also no achievements for the game on Steam. So.
Oh, really?
Nope.
That's a shame.
Yeah, they didn't port them over.
That's a shame.
But they're not required on Steam, and I hate achievements, so I'm fine with it.
Okay, well,
we can still look it up. And
yeah,
see
we'll
what-
look it up and whatnot. I'm sure that will still be in the game. We just won't get a thing that come up and say, "Yay, you did it."
You did
yeah,
this.
it's just something that you guys will kind of know when you're there because it looks like a children's area sort of thing.
Right.
You're gonna hear ghostly children laughter, if I remember correctly. So there's a secret there to be had, and
there's some cues.
Yeah. So we'll discuss that next week. So again, I guess we're changing it to 3 chapters for those listening. So next week, by the time we meet next week, play through Times Square, the Public Library, and the History Museum. Stop after the museum.
Right.
All right, cool. And then we'll wrap it up after the week after next. Sweet.
Awesome.
Sounds good.
Thank you guys for tuning into our game club.
Right. Thank you so much for hosting us.
Thanks for watching, everybody.
Bye-bye, folks.
Bye, Net.
Good night and good game.
Stay geeky.